So I watched the movie yesterday. It was twofold for me because I was able to come to New Orleans with you last year and go and meet the actors and hear you talk about the movie and stuff. But what I loved the most, man, was your never give up spirit. Even when your corner man was telling you, you got to do it this, and you was like, I got it. Where did that come from?
Well, you learn to fight early in life. I was in a boxing match the first time, and I thought they had taught me everything there was about boxing. But the guy knocks me down in the first round, and I'm seeing triples of people. and I thought about maybe I better leave all this boxing alone and fight now. And I fought. I said, I'll go back to boxing later. And I fought and won that boxing match. And I found out in life, that's the way it was going to have to be. When nothing else worked, I was going to have to fight, and I depended on fight, and I fought.
I saw that you was in Job Corps, and I have a couple. My sister was in Job Corps, and I called her and was like, George Foreman was in Job Corps too. But what did you really learn from Job Corps? Like outside of meeting your guy, learn how to box. I saw you messing with some electrical. Did you really learn like a skill from Job Corps?
I never read a book until I'd gone to the Job Corps. People were interested in teaching me. I learned how to read, how to behave myself. I learned that there were other parts in the world other than Texas, Houston, and especially Fifth Ward, which was all my life. I never left Fifth Ward, so to speak. And the Job Corps taught me to sit up straight, believe in myself, and boxing was the least of the lessons I learned in Job Corps.
Wow. I'm from the Bay Area, so I saw it was in Pleasanton. I was like, oh, man, I would have to imagine somebody from Texas, from that area would fall in love with the Bay, like, the water and everything there.
I still love the Bay Area.
Yeah.
If you ask me where I'm really from, it's from the Bay Area.
Come on, West Side, George, you get to do that.
And I learned how to drive in California. Everything came to me there. And of course, what came to me most is separation from faith in God, because everybody was cool there and nobody talked about religion in my circle at all.
Right. I know about you in the Olympics and being 19. I love that he was telling you, you won't be able to get into the Olympics that fast. Coming back from the Olympics and going home and just winning the gold and feeling on top of the world, and then it being right in the middle of almost of a race war, and that was the epic moment where the track team put their hand up. And how did you deal with those two levels? Because I was looking at it going, wow, that's tough, because he won and he did it for the country. And I served in the military, so I understand the flag. But how did that make you feel going back home and they treated you like that?
Well, the Job Corps, it was a program started by the government. I got a second chance in life. I heard a commercial, Jim Brown and Johnny United, saying, if you're looking for a second chance, join the Job Corps.
Yeah.
And I got my first uniform, suits, pants, and 3 meals in one day, all because of that. And I knew for a fact that that's something that America had given me. So, and I'd gone to the Olympics representing the United States, my first uniform. I'd never gone into service. And after the fight was over, I thought, man, all of these people here, most of them look like me. And then I'd say, hello, brother. And they didn't even understand English.
Right.
I said, how do I distinguish myself? I had the small American flag. I said, I got to let them know where I was from. And I bowed. Yeah, I'm from America. And then I waved the flag. And that was important to me. I was never going to give up on somebody who had never given up on me.
Come on.
So when I raised that flag, that's what it was all about. And a lot of people, especially when I got back, told me, how could you do that, George, when the brothers were doing their thing? And it offended me, put a chip on my shoulder as well, because I was doing what I had to do. I was grateful from where I'd come from and who had helped me, and I waved that flag for that reason. But I had to fight through that, but it became easy. I said, I'm going to knock out anybody else who bring it up.
Come on. I love it. And I notice I'm a very meticulous, I watch a lot of movies, we're writing movies and stuff. You guys were very, very intentional how you had the lady who portrayed your mother in the movie, like even down to the rips in her outfit
Yeah.
when she was working. Was that something that you remembered and was like, I remember going home and my mom was wearing the same and it was just old and tattered?
Those uniforms. That's fun. I thought attractiveness was uniforms because my mother would dress up in these uniforms, go to work in the morning, come back, and then on the weekend maybe dress up. So uniforms is a problem with me because became attractive to in my latter years with girls who were had uniforms on.
All right.
I said she sure is cute. I noticed the uniform first.
Right. Let's talk about the faith part. I remember you telling me in New Orleans that you was like, man, faith was just, or Christianity was something we heard about. We beat up people leaving the church. And I saw that they put in the part that you guys were jumping drunk people. But tell me about your time before Christ, like how it seemed. I didn't, and they never said it in the movie. And I want to ask you now, was it not having a father there at the time? That I always tell people that it's hard to be submissive to God when you hear the word father and your earthly father did you wrong or didn't treat you how you wanted him to treat you.
My mother gave me a good upbringing. As a matter of fact, she'd carry a hug in one arm and a broomstick in the other. She had to be both mom and dad. My father, I didn't spend much time with my father. He was around somewhere. But what I did learn from him once, he would pat me on the head and say, George Foreman, next heavyweight champion of the world. He would whisper that in my ear from time to time. I didn't even know what heavyweight champion of the world was. And I had a chip on my shoulder for a long time, but my mother would try to pray it away from me.
Now let's talk about you becoming the man who just left it all and heard. I heard you tell me in New Orleans that, man, you felt like somebody called you, like as clear as we're talking right now, somebody called you. How was that? I know a lot of pastors starting a church isn't easy when they don't know you, but when they do know you, did a lot of people come just to see George Foreman?
For a long time, people would stop by church just to see. And one fellow told me it's like getting a bug. How many legs does it have? You know, insect.
Yeah.
Checking it out, and they thought it was a joke. For a long time, people didn't believe it. They thought George is up to something. That celebrities always do those things. Preaching on the street corners, they really thought. One guy wrote in the Forward Time here in Houston, is George Foreman a fool or a tool? And that's the way it was. But everybody would come out to look at it once.
Wow. That your second wife who you met at the church, how influencing was she during that time when you came back? Because it seemed like your comeback, you only knew one thing. You knew you loved the Lord, but you had learned how to fight. How influential was she in that transition?
Well, my dear wife stood with me. She didn't want me to go back into boxing at all because she'd seen photographs. She didn't know me as the champion of the world. She'd seen photographs of that human being. So she thought I would have to be that. When I convinced her that that would never happen, that I had a new look on life, and I was not the same George Foreman. And she even had a vision because she was so worried about it that I would become champ of the world again. So I stayed with the process, and when she wanted me sometime to quit, I said, quit. I said, you remember you had the vision, and she remembered, and I stayed with it.
George, what I also loved about the movie was they actually put the live footage of you fighting. Sometimes they don't do that, but in 1994, I'm a 25-year-old, and I remember sitting with somebody saying, "Oh no, man, he twice as old as us. He's not gonna get this." Was that important for you to actually have them put that in the film?
You know, I truly believed in the process of the movie makers. Too many cooks in the kitchen. I stepped out of the kitchen and let them do it. And then once I saw the movie, I realized they were responsible, and they made me relive all of that. One picture is worth 1,000 words, and so a lot of things were left out as far as words are concerned, but the pictures they presented were enough for me.
George, I love. I mean, you know, I'm a veteran. I'm in this entertainment business, and I thought they captured your story, which was, you know, over decades. I thought they were able to really put that in 110 or 119 minutes, in a way that someone who didn't know you at all. And it's funny because I was talking to the night auditor, and she was probably about 27. And I said, yeah, we're all here. We're doing this George Foreman. She was like, who's George Foreman? I said, you know, the boxer, George, the pastor, he from Houston. She's like, I don't know. I said, the grill dude. And she was like, oh, the grill dude. He did something else before he made the grill. Is it funny that people remember you that way or that way?
You know, I did. I'd stop kids on the street. I tell that story all the time. And the teacher would ask me, speak to them, George. This is George Foreman, champion of the world, Olympic champion. And one kid said right in front of the teacher, that's the cooking man. Like they were trying to pull a trick on him. They didn't know me as the boxer. And I didn't mind that competition, though.
Yeah. George, I loved your adoration for giving back to the community. When you saw that abandoned building and you thought to yourself, did you think I could make another George Foreman, or I could just get a kid off the street?
The most important thing when I started the George Foreman Youth Center was trying to point kids away from trouble. I had turned my back on one kid because I said he needs church, and I realized I wouldn't be able to get him in church, but I could get him out, keep them from getting in trouble. That's what that youth center was about, and I really needed to give back something, and that's why my brother Roy and I started the George Foreman Youth Center.
I love it. George, I got to go wrap this up, but from a biblical aspect, I actually had Exodus 14:14 tattooed on my wrist. Now, to remember a verse, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
But the verse is, God will always fight your battles. All you have to do is be still. What is a verse or a person in the Bible that you can always reflect on and make it mean to something now?
First Psalms. I love that first couple of verses. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. And it goes on to say, he should be like a tree at the bottom, planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth its fruit in its season, something like that. But that's my favorite verse. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly.
That's awesome, George. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.